Truly transformational change occurs best when all levels of our experience are congruent and aligned, all working together to support a desired change. In this videotape, Robert Dilts demonstrates his way of aligning all levels of experience to support change. The demonstration person, Robin, has severe arthritis. This demonstration was videotaped at the conclusion of an NLP Comprehensive practitioner training in early 1992.
There's a beautiful little metaphor I know about that I have. It's a metaphor in the form of a true story. Maybe some of you have heard a bit about it. It's about the man who planted trees. Has anyone ever heard that story? It's a story about a guy it's at the beginning of the century. There's a guy who's a European man who's taking a walk through the Alps, lower Alps in France. And he comes across this part of the Alps. He's hiking across this part of the Alps that's very vast and basically barren. There's only a few villages here and there. And the only kind of people that can survive in these villages are really hard people. There's a lot of abuse and violence and stuff that goes on in these places. And he's kind of noticing this, and he's walking on through this set of mountains. And finally, he comes upon this little, I don't know, a shack or a little place where there's a guy. And he notices this man that seems to just have a really gentle kind of a presence. And he needs a place to stay, and the man invites him to stay. He's a man of very few words. But he notices, the hiker notices, the traveler notices that that night that this man starts sorting through acorns. And very carefully, he's looking at these acorns, systematically throwing out some and picking only the very best acorns. And finally gets 100 acorns, puts them in a little pail. The next morning, the man gets up, and he notices that his host is gone, and he goes out to look for him. And he finds that the guy is out on one of the sides of these barren mountains, and he has a staff, and he's poking holes, and he's planting these acorns. And he pokes another hole, and he plants the acorns, and he very carefully looks, selects, plants these little acorns, 100 of them. And the guy ends up staying there for a few days, and every day this man goes out and plants these 100 acorns. And he just sort of notices it, and he leaves. And a few years later, the guy comes back hiking through about 5-10 years later. And as he comes back, it's still mostly barren. He notices, though, that there's places where there's little sprouts of trees coming up in certain areas. And he finds his host again, and of course the man remembers him. And again, this guy's out every morning, every day, planting 100 acorns. 20 years later, he comes back, and the guy has just been going. He just keeps going wherever new places are. He plants his 100 acorns every day. And in fact, as the guy was asking him about it, why he does this, and the man was saying, well, apparently it was something like that this guy had his wife and his son or something had been killed somehow. And he was either going to go crazy or he had to do something to affirm life. And this was his way, planting these 100 acorns every day, of just how he did when he did it, it was a moment when he was just in touch with, in his experience, with something spiritual or something that was about life. So it's 20 years later, there's like trees starting to grow, there's birds coming in. Because the trees are starting to collect dew and water and stuff, there's more plants growing, streams are beginning to form. And like 35 years later, there's a forest growing. And because it's a place then that people enjoy, they're starting to come. People take their vacations there. They're starting to build. The towns have changed. There are children out playing in the streets. People are starting to bring money to this place. And the French government thinks that it's a miracle. They think, they're going, this spontaneous refoliation has happened. And by the end of as the story goes over, it spans about 50 years, this place has been totally transformed to a place of life, a place of rivers and birds and people singing and laughing and stuff. And finally, the French government even puts it aside as a national forest. But nobody ever knows that it was this man who just went out and planted 100 acorns every day. You know, teaching somebody to spell, teaching somebody to have some different sense of their own nervous system. And of course, I always like to, of course, if the French government had decided to refoliate the area, you know they would have failed. You know, it would have been a big political battle. You know, in fact, I think that's what it takes. Is it takes the people that go out and plant those 100 acorns. And to me, that's what's so important about some of those NLP tools. The big visions become realities. The dreams become realities through planting the acorns. And of course, I think there's the other piece to this is that for this man, planting the acorns, the thing that allowed him to do that every day for 40 years or whatever, was that in his experience, that was a sacred thing or a holy thing. And to me, I think that's also a really important part about doing NLP. It's like the Einstein talking about wanting to know God's thoughts, that's this kind of participation in God's thoughts. And in a way, this relates to what I'd like to do this morning, which is a process that I call logical level alignment, that's about bringing into alignment all of these different levels of ourselves. That is, bringing the where and when and the what you do in line with the why and the how and the who and the who else. Certainly in organizations, you know that the actions of people have to be in line with the values and the norms of the organization, which have to be in line with the mission of the organization, which have to be in line with the system that organization is part of. That the whole process of alignment is, I think, a key element. It's also, I believe, a lifelong kind of a process. In the same way that Dreamer, Realist, Critic is an ongoing process, the process of constantly aligning all the different levels of your experience are another kind of process like this. What I'd like to do, what we're going to be doing is I'd like to relate it back again to some of the dreams that you have and some of the ways that you would like to be using NLP after the program. And in fact, in particular, what I'd like to have you be thinking about is what are some of the environments. What we're going to do is I'm going to have you start by thinking of some of the wheres and the whens in your future and where you're going to be that you would like to be able to use NLP. And then what we'll do is once you define those wheres and whens, we'll say, well, what do you want to do in those wheres and whens? What kinds of new behaviors would you be doing? Or old behaviors? Then we'll say, what kinds of skills, capabilities, maps will allow you to do those behaviors in those places? Then we'll say, what kinds of values and beliefs do you need in order to be able to activate these skills and these maps to do these behaviors in those times and places? And then we'll explore, well, who would you be? Who will you be if you are able to take these values and these beliefs, activate these capabilities and skills to do these specific actions in these times and places? Who would you be? And then we'll even take one more step and say, what larger vision would you be participating in or serving if you were this kind of person with these kinds of values and beliefs, activating these capabilities and skills and acting in these ways in those times and places? And then what we'll do is we'll bring all of these levels together and bring them into that one sort of a focal point. Just like the man, where the delicacy and the reverence that he went through to plant each acorn wasn't just an act. It was a statement of values and beliefs and vision and identity and skill. That each time that he hit the ground with that staff to make a hole, he wasn't just moving his hand. He was embodying, I think, a totality of things. He was, in a sense, in those moments, instead of being a guy hitting his staff on the ground, it was, in a sense, being, it was a spiritual act, if you will. And in the story, it really clearly comes through that for this man, that was a spiritual act. And I think it's true that anytime you consult somebody or you counsel somebody, even if you make a sale to somebody, that can be a spiritual act. Teaching a kid to spell is a transformational act. Having developed that spelling strategy and used it in schools and even written software from it, it's always interesting, years later to have somebody come up to me. It's long enough now, I've been in this business long enough now that somebody who was a child 15 years ago is an adult now. And I've actually had people come up and tell me how their life was changed because the fact that they could suddenly spell, dispelled all these limiting beliefs. And to me, that's the payoff of doing NLP. That's the payoff of it, is that, you do something here and you hear, you don't know. Some of you, like people I never met, I didn't even know about. But you've created something in the world that suddenly allows people to be transformed, to be empowered. And so what I would like to do is, Robin had asked about, she's working with an issue relating to a health issue. And of course, this is not specifically something that has only to do with health. It has to do with with aligning yourself towards a goal in any situation. But Robin, if you would be interested, what we're going to do is, when we've done our spatial sorting earlier, like with dreamer, realist, critic, we had a dreamer and then realist and then critic, and we've done our spatial sorting with transferring. We said, here's the problem space, here's the solution space. Well, here, what we want to do is to unfold these levels by, in a sense, going behind each level. Rather than sideways or something like that. What we're going to do is to take a step back from each level as if you're going to a kind of a meta position to each level. But I want to specify something here. A meta position is not a disassociated position. There's a real big difference between being meta and being disassociated. In being disassociated, you go out of your body. You go out of your feelings. When you go meta, you simply take your body and you take your feelings and you take your sounds and you take your vision and you just take it to a different level. It's meta. It's not disassociated from yourself. It's yourself meta to some other level of yourself. In a sense, it's not associated in this experience, but it's not disassociated either. It's like associated at a different level. To me, that's real different. Being meta and being disassociated are not the same process. I can be meta and disassociated. I can go out of my body and not have any feelings and be, looking at something. But I don't have to be. I can be in my body and having all my feelings and looking at it. So that's something that's real important to me, is that in each step here, in fact, rather than becoming disassociated, what you should find is that you actually activate more neurology with each step back. As you get into your beliefs and values, you will experience deeper feelings than you'll experience when you're just looking at your environment. So again, the point I want to make is that being meta is not disassociating from yourself. It's as if you're just associating into deeper and deeper parts of yourself. So, and that's what we'll do.
Okay.
So here's what I'm going to ask you to think about before you engage in it. We're going to find a space here that will represent some times and places in your future. Okay. And what I'd like to have you do, and again, you don't have to take big things. You can take big dreams or little dreams. It doesn't matter. You can take planting acorns or bringing the world together. It doesn't matter. But the idea is that you need to at least be able to envision, hear, sense some sort of concrete environment that you will be in. And this is sensory-based. It's the stuff that you'll be seeing, hearing, feeling around you. It's your environment. This is when I look out there. It could be my home. It could be my office. It could be other people's places. I mean, it could be places I'm expecting to travel. But these would be some key environments or environment where you would like to be able to embody the dreams and skills that you have from what you've been learning in the NLP program. Okay?
Okay.
So when you're ready, step into that space and begin to just create your representation of these wheres and whens.
Okay.
So if this was in your future, sometime, I don't know, do you have an idea of how far it might be?
2 months.
A couple months. So this is a when. And where would you be? What environments are you in? What do you see around you, here around you?
In my home.
It's in your home. Do you have any particular details of your home that you can think of right now?
Just a lot of light and sun coming in the windows.
So there's the windows, the sun coming in. By the way, this is part of future pacing, so the more hooks that you can get into your actual environment, the better. So, I mean, there might even be bureaus or a breakfast table or things like that, that if you begin to, because the whole idea is we want to these are going to become the anchors that are going to trigger, or we were saying trigger, release, if you will, if you don't want to say trigger, the different levels that we're going to be bringing here. So are there any other things that you'd see or hear in this environment that would be little cues to you?
The cats running around.
Those cats.
I can hear the birds outside, and then we have a seasonal creek.
Okay.
I can hear the water.
Yeah. So find just like Robin's doing, find some key cues that are going to be around. So he says birds, there's an auditory thing, there's a seasonal stream, and that'll be seasonal, so sometimes it'll be there, sometimes it won't. There'll be light coming in the windows, there'll be the cats, but there's enough things that no matter what time of year it is, this is going to be your place. Okay? Now I'd like to have you take a step back from that, and as you look at this place, these cats and this seasonal stream and the light coming through the window and the birds and all of that, what specific things would you be doing there? How would you be different in terms of, and what I'd like to really have you think about is specifically in terms of the quality of how you're moving, the kind of things that you're doing, but these are also sensory based. That is, if I had a video camera, or if I was a little fly on the wall or something, what would I be seeing you do?
Okay. You'd probably be seeing me moving around a lot easier with more energy.
So what would that look like? How would I know, oh, Robin's moving easier and with more energy?
I'd probably be going up and down the stairs faster.
So you'd be going up and down the stairs faster? Would there be anything that if you were just standing still, would I be able to tell by the way your posture was, or your breathing was, or your tone of voice?
Well, probably that I'd be standing instead of sitting or lying down.
So I might see you sitting, or rather standing more, moving around in the space. Are you going out to the seasonal stream? Are you doing anything?
I'm just, doing more things around the house and just getting things ready. And
if I heard Robin's tone of voice here, if I heard you speaking with me, I'd be able to tell, oh, Robin's using different kinds of words, or her voice sounds different.
Yeah, there'd be more energy, it'd be more direct, probably not as short of breath.
Yeah, so she's breathing easier, she's not short of breath, her voice is sounding more direct, her movements are easier, she's going up and down stairs.
Probably a lot more positive language in what I'm saying, too.
Okay, so I'd hear her using different kinds of words, certain sorts of words that are more positively stated. Okay, so these are all the whats. These are whats that will be there. These are the little acorns that are going to be there. They're going to let me know, in this 2 months from now, these skills are there. This NLP stuff is transferred into Robin's reality. Now, let's take a step back from there.
Okay.
And the question here would be, what kind of capabilities, skills, maps are you going to need and are you going to have to be able to allow you to move easier, to talk more directly and positively, to go up and down the stairs, stand more, breathe easier in this space of your home. It's got the seasonal creak and the light coming through the window.
Kind of skills?
Yeah.
Well, I'd have to be healthier.
Well, what do you need to be healthier? See, what would you... This is, by the way, important. The chain is no stronger than the weakest link. Some people won't know what's going to be different. Some people have a harder time defining the behaviors. But what it seems to me, and I think you'll find this when you do self, is that if you don't have access to the how, if you know the what, but you don't know the how, then you're just setting yourself up to be frustrated. Richard Bandler once said, disappointment requires adequate planning. But I think my view on a different level is that actually disappointment only is actually inadequate planning. It's planning only on the what level, and not on the how, and not on the why, and not on the who. So for me, if this person, if she's moving around easier, what kind, I mean, does she need to be able to communicate better with her body? Does she need to be able to use her abilities to visualize what she wants? Does she need to be able to, you know, what kinds of, if you think about specifically, since this is the end of our NLP program, what kinds of NLP skills would help her to be able to do that?
Good question.
You could take it.
I think part of it is communicating better with my body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so communicating better with her body. Mm-hmm. Anything else? I mean, in other words, I can think of certainly some simple skills that would help people talk more positively from NLP. Mm-hmm. The ability to recognize.
Well, I guess the other thing she needs is a belief that it can happen.
Right, well, we're going to get to beliefs later. This is skills now.
Skills. Probably the skill of just having a balance.
Okay.
And not doing too much.
Okay, the skill of calibrating herself so she's able to maintain a balance, not overdo. Skill of being able to communicate better with her body. Are there any verbal skills that she might need in terms of listening to her own language? In terms of setting well-formed outcomes? I mean,
yeah.
It seems to me that those might be useful to her. If I see this person and I go, well, you might want to be able to set an outcome every day. What are going to be your acorns that you're going to plant every day? That's something she can do. I could even imagine that she might use the Disney strategy. Could be a useful skill for her to do some of that. Keeping balance, dreamer, realist, critic. Mm-hmm. There might be 6-step reframing she could use. I mean, these might come in a little bit handy. I don't know. You know, that sort of stuff.
That might work.
Yeah. I mean, in other words, you've spent, I don't know how many months, 5-6 months here learning stuff here that can help. I mean, in here you could have a whole range of them. We're not saying what's one skill per behavior.
Yeah.
Okay, so far we've got communicating better with her body, the ability to calibrate herself and maintain balance, the ability to do things like set well-formed outcomes, the ability to maybe even do sort of like dreamer, realist, critic with goals for each day. Yeah. Okay. And by the way, we could take others. There might be little anchors that she'd want to use.
Say anchors and resource states.
I mean, one of the things that I like to do is take little anchors and strew them all around my house. So if I walk into one room, bang, there's a positive anchor. So even if my stupid conscious mind doesn't remember something, my unconscious mind will. You know? It's like, so I'm strewing my house full of positive anchors. I mean, those could be things that you do. What would you put? I mean, she could put things on her stairway. I mean, what would be the things that remind her of balance, that remind her, pay attention to yourself? You can even put up little things on your refrigerator, you know. Have you hugged yourself today? You know, or things like that. Okay, so now let's take a step back one more. And here's the place, Robin, where you said before you needed some beliefs. Now here's this person, here's this Robin, who's able to calibrate herself, maintain balance, communicate better with her body. She's able to do this kind of balance her dreamer and her realist and her critic, set outcomes. She's able to move up and down the stairs. She's standing more. Her voice is more positive, more direct, all of that. She's in this place of her seasonal stream, cats, the light streaming through the windows. What beliefs and what values would support those capabilities and those actions.
What beliefs?
Those places.
One is the belief that I can be healthy. Also that what I do is unique and different enough without having to have the arthritis on top of it.
She says two things. One is first the belief that I can be healthy. Secondly is the belief that I am unique and different enough that I don't need this arthritis on top of it to be special. I'm special enough just in who I am. I don't need something else. I don't need something else to make me special or different. What else would help her to, what other beliefs would she need to be able to, do this kind of stuff, to calibrate to herself, to keep balance, to set outcomes?
I believe that I have enough time to do it.
Okay. It's real important. The belief that I have enough time. Okay. So I can do it. I'm special. I have the time. Any other beliefs? Let me ask this too. What sort of values, what would you need to value, to hold as important in your heart in order to be able to do those skills, to enact those skills in an ongoing way and do those kind of behaviors? What would you value?
Probably myself.
Yeah.
It's easier to be focused on everything else than on me.
So I think that's something that's really important. She says, I need to value myself. What other kind of values would that lead to? How would you, would that be, would you respect yourself? And any other kinds of criteria or things that would be of more importance to you if you were doing all of this?
I just keep coming back to that balance.
Okay, so balance. I'd have to value balance in order to enact the skills to do balance. I think those are important. I'll also tell you, remember I said yesterday that even an action presupposes skills, and skills presuppose values and beliefs. If you don't value something, why would you develop the skill to do it? If I have the skill to maintain balance, I've got to value balance, because otherwise I can have the skill to have balance and not use it. Because I go, well, I have the skill to have balance, but I value other people more than me. Well, so then I'm not going to use it. Okay. Now, let's take another step.
Okay.
And in this step, I'd like to have you consider this person, starting all the way back down as a person in this house with the light streaming in the windows, the cats running around, the birds outside, the stream, and she's going up and down the stairs, moving easier, standing more, breathing more fully, speaking more positively, more directly. She's using skills to be in communication with her body, to calibrate and maintain balance, to set goals, to be a dreamer, be a realist, be a critic. She values herself. She values her health. She values balance. She believes that she can. She believes that she can have the time. If this was in fact what you were doing, who would you be? What kind of person would you be? And the way I'd like to have you think of that answer is not just as, well, I would be a person who does this, this, but if you were to make a metaphor, like just a metaphor of a whole, would this person be, if you made an analogy or a metaphor, like is this person a lighthouse, is this person an owl, is this, use whatever metaphor that you'd like, but what would be one, like in a single sort of an image or a metaphor that would somehow embody all of that?
A butterfly.
A butterfly. Okay. So she would be a butterfly. Okay. Now, I'm going to take one more step.
Okay.
And so if we've noticed, we've been kind of unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. So if you have this butterfly who has these beliefs and these values and these skills and those actions in that place, I'd like to have you take one more step back. And we've just made it. And I'd like to have you envision beyond the butterfly. That is, this butterfly, this you, is a butterfly in a much wider system. She has a purpose in that system. She has a role in that system. And my question would be, what is your vision, or what kind of image would you have of the larger system that this butterfly is in? That is, what do you see her doing? What do you see around her? What is she serving, and what does she do, this butterfly? My question really, Robin, is what is your vision? What is your own personal vision of the things that are bigger than you? What is your own personal vision of, if you go meta to your own specific self for a moment, how do you see the larger things that you're part of?
Okay.
And it doesn't even have to be with reference to a butterfly. It could be a whole different kind of image even.
Okay, that works.
Yeah.
Just being very comfortable with myself, but also interacting with other people and helping other people.
Mm-hmm. And see, the one thing is, Robin said, I'd be comfortable with myself and interacting with other people, but I hear that that's even still from your point of view. Mm-hmm. I'm saying if that was part of the butterfly that's interacting mm-hmm. with others and stuff, mm-hmm. what is the bigger, what is your, if you really expanded the sort of the frame of reference, and this you was a small part of something that was really, really big. You were part of it. Mm-hmm. What is your image of that bigger thing?
My image?
Yeah.
I see just an incredibly beautiful garden.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
With, just a lot of very beautiful and exotic flowers mm-hmm. and other butterflies. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know, there's just a sense of harmony with
mm-hmm.
it all.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing Robin say is that her image of what she's a part of this bigger thing that we're all part of, is mm-hmm. like this incredibly beautiful garden where there's, and I like the notion of the exotic plants because there's a lot of diversity, and mm-hmm. there's other butterflies, and they're moving around in this garden.
A lot of harmony.
And a lot of harmony. Okay. So now we've unfolded, and what I want you to realize is that sometimes when you get up into these places, these are visions that you have. For some people, every once in a while, like when they almost die or something, they get in touch with that kind of vision. They suddenly, it's like this is the near-death experience instead of the immediate everyday life experience. To me, I don't think you only have to have that vision, when you're in some moment of crisis. Certainly your brain has a place for that vision all the time, not only in those moments. And what I'd like to ask you to do is if you could take that vision of the garden mm-hmm. and the exotic plants and the other butterflies and not leave it here, but actually bring this vision inside that person who's interacting with other people, who's the butterfly, who's interacting and helping others. So it's like this butterfly isn't just a butterfly flying around. This butterfly has a vision. Mm-hmm. The butterfly knows that she's in a garden. The butterfly knows that even if she's not seeing it right in front of her, that there's exotic plants there and that there's harmony all around her. Okay, so if you could take that vision, and the vision is going to start to come to life through this level, through this butterfly, through this person that helps others. Okay. So now you can take a step forward.
All right.
And that's right. And be in this butterfly. And be this person who's here but interacting with others. But around you, there's the garden. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it changes or enhances or solidifies or enriches this sense of butterfly, or if there's anything you would add to it.
You already made a few changes.
Yeah. She says, I made a few changes. Taking this level of neurology and connecting it with this sort of starts to make changes around that as well. Now, what I'd like to have you do is to take this butterfly and this sense of a person that interacts with others, but who also knows, who also has the vision of this garden, but is in the vision of the garden. It's not just looking at it. If you took that and brought this experience, both the butterfly and the garden, into the space of values and beliefs. So, if you took a step forward and revisit these beliefs that you had that said, I can be healthy, that I can maintain balance, I value balance, I value myself. And my question to you would be, what happens to these beliefs? Remember a little earlier when you were going, well, I need to believe that I can. It was almost as if you weren't sure that you could. And I wonder what happens to that belief if you bring...
Well, it just, it's like, well, of course.
Yeah. So that's how you know somebody really believes something, is they don't go, this is what I believe. They go, of course. You know, that's how you know somebody really believes it. They go, I believe it, you know. It's yeah. Why would it be any different? I don't have to believe I can do it. I know I can do it. I mean, it's not a matter of believing it. And just notice if you infuse this sense of values and beliefs with that vision and that sense of being a butterfly, that sense of being the person that can help others, that in essence, really, all these beliefs are just they're just a reflection of that. They're just the bringing of that into your heart. They take this vision and bring it into your heart instead of leaving it out somewhere in your head. And if you could take that vision and that sense of identity, that butterfly, and these beliefs, and bring those into these skills that you know you have, because you've been practicing them here for lots of months, and take these beliefs into there, and that vision and that butterfly. So that the skill of setting goals, or the skill of communicating more with your body, the skill of being aware of yourself and maintaining balance, that's a natural part of valuing yourself, of valuing balance, of being this butterfly in the garden. That when you do pay attention to yourself, it's not just a skill, it's a part of being in the garden. It's part of the harmony that's all around you. It's just an embodiment of the harmony that's everywhere around you. And I'd like to have you really think about, you know, what, if anything, also would enrich here, if there are other skills that suddenly you become aware that you have that you didn't think of before.
Well, this is one.
Right. Yeah.
Add that in.
You talk about anchoring, and think about how when you're doing that anchoring, I mean, the anchoring is just planting the seeds in that garden.
Resources I can anchor.
Yeah. I see there's a little more color there, a little more movement there. And then I'd like to have you take that vision and that sense of being a butterfly and those values and beliefs in your heart and these capabilities and resources and skills and bring those into this place of behaviors. Step forward. And here's this person who is talking more directly, more positively. And you're moving up and down the stairs, and you're sensing your balance more, your breathing is open. But you're not, when you breathe in, you're not just breathing in. You're in the garden. You're participating in that vision. Each breath is an affirmation of the fact that you value yourself. The ability to move up the stairs is like a butterfly flying around in that garden. Yeah. That these things are simply the natural They're the natural result of being aware of yourself, valuing yourself, being a butterfly in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And so that when you sense yourself doing those things that you want to do, you're not just doing them. All of this is there.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that you can do them is because you've got all of these parts of you just here in this moment. And of course, the final step would be to take that vision and that sense of self and those values and beliefs and these capabilities and skills and resources and these behaviors and step into what you know is going to be your concrete future. I mean, you're going to be in that home. You're going to be hearing those birds around you. You're going to be where that stream is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the sound of those birds is just a reminder that you're in that exotic garden.
Yeah.
And the stream in front of you is just a reminder that you can value balance in life and that it's exotic. The fact that it's seasonal lets you know that there's change, there's flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
The cat's running around lets you know there might be other creatures or butterflies in this garden. They're not just cats. They're part of it. They're reminders.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just light streaming through the window. That's your guidance. That's your memory. That's your realization that there's harmony all around you. See, I think if you can just bring this kind of a neurology in there, if you get that much of yourself activated, you're going to, things are going to be different. Also, just in reference to what I think a real important thing is just in reference to the whole metaphor of arthritis. Arthritis is like an allergy to yourself. Arthritis is your immune system attacking your own joints, whatever. And to me, all autoimmune illnesses, whether they're allergies or whether they're arthritis or whether they're even something like cancer, there's one cure for them, and that is getting your body clear about what's you and what's not you. And that's really what happens. When your immune system goes, oh, this is me. This is me. This is special. This is me. I am special. I'm a butterfly. This is part of the butterfly. Then it's not going to attack it anymore. In an allergy, it goes, oh, this isn't attacking me. I don't have to be afraid. With something like cancer, it goes, oh, wait a minute. That doesn't have to be me. That's not me. I don't have to let that be part of me because I know who I am. And the amazing thing is, it's not aggression like they portray it. It's not, well, the white cells have to kill, the white cells only have to be clear, and they'll escort the other stuff right on through. When I worked with my mom about the vision that she had, creating her image for healing, what we did was basically get into a state like this, when she was really clear about who she was in that kind of a moment, and let the image emerge out of that feeling. And the image that emerged for her of what was going on in her body, wasn't a battle between good white cells and bad cancer cells. In fact, what she saw was as if the cancer that had been in her body was like, she saw her body as like fields of grass. And the grass had started to become overgrown and turn into weeds because there hadn't been enough white sheep to graze that grass and keep it in balance. And so what she saw was white sheep, or white cells as sheep, moving through her body, gently grazing this grass back into a balance. Not coming in with white jet planes to napalm it, or something like that. And for her, that was a total sense of health. You don't have to visualize Pac-Man, and that kind of stuff. Healing does not have to be war. You don't really have killer cells in your body. That's what somebody's model of the world calls them, and that model of the world has unfortunate consequences in some situations. It's a choice. I think it's important to have the choice of being able to perceive aggression, but it doesn't have to be. I don't think God's thoughts are aggressive white cells. I think they're more like, I think clarity and light is more what heals, not violence and aggression and killer cells. And so in that sense, I think, that if you can take that stuff and you get that into, not just into here and in your heart, but you get that into your joints and you get that into the cells, then you know who you are and you know that you're special. Not just here, but there and there and there. And all those places, yeah. That little cocoon. And I think that to me is the place from which healing comes. And it brings it from things that are very abstract, but they're just as much a part of our reality as looking out and seeing your world around you. And to me, what happens with most people is they go up there and have their vision, and then they leave it there, and they come back and they get caught up in, oh, there's my stream, and there's my cat. Rather than going, no, wait a minute. That cat is one of these exotic things. That stream is a reminder that I can have balance. To me, then you live in a multi-level world, because I happen to believe that this world is something that's special, that these chairs and these people aren't just a bunch of people in a room, that on another level there is something that's going on, and that you just participated in. And that would be the end of our exercise, our process. It's, in a sense, if you think about it, it's a way of reviewing some of the pieces, putting together some of the pieces, taking some of the presuppositions, the beliefs, taking some of the skills that you've learned, taking some of the behaviors that you've learned how to define, opening that up to some of these other levels, metaphor, vision. And you can even have it if you're not standing here, wired up to this thing. But, so all you got to do is see the light streaming in the room and go, that's the same light that streams in the room in my house, too. So.